Hi, I'm Mindy. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you my top 7 reads for quarter 2 of 2020, which is April through June. My favorite reads for quarter 2 pretty much represent the eclectic nature of the kinds of books that I like. They are across the board as far as genre and subject matter. First, I have one classic that made the list for my favorites, and that classic you might be able to guess if you watched my last wrap-up. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. The Count of Monte Cristo was originally published in France in 1844 and was actually originally serialized in 18 separate parts. This is an amazing tale of betrayal and revenge. It is definitely the best book of revenge that I've ever read. 2 historical fictions made it to my list of favorite reads. The first one is Fall of Giants by Ken Follett. I don't have a physical copy of that book, but I do have book 2 in the series, Winter of the World, which will be the next one that I'll be reading, hopefully soon. Fall of Giants is a World War I focused novel that has characters that are followed from all over the world, and you can see how their stories converge and what the war was like in a lot of different parts of a lot of different countries, and it was really well done. Ken Follett really knows how to write a character well and make you really love them or really hate them. Fall of Giants didn't really have like a villain, but as like a main character, but there were some very morally gray characters that make some dubious decisions. This second book I'm excited to read because it takes place during World War II, and if the main characters, some of them seem to be the children of the main characters in the first book, and I am excited to find out how they do during war times as well. The second historical fiction that made it to my top reads is The Signature of All Things by Elizabeth Gilbert, which was originally published in 2013, and following the life of Alma Whitaker, who was a botanist who studied mosses in the 1800s, and it follows her entire life from childhood all the way well into her adult years. It was really well written, and you can't help but love Alma in this book, and her life was really fascinating, and she went a lot of interesting places and met a lot of interesting people. So that one is definitely worth a read. It was really well done. I also have 2 what I would consider literary fiction novels on my list. The first one is more of a magical realism story, and that is The Enchanted by Renee Denfeld. This is a book that takes place in a prison, and more specifically in death row, and it follows one of the inmates on death row, the priest, a lawyer that is working with the inmate, and the warden of the prison. And there are a lot of really interesting magical realism elements added in that make this a very magical read. and it's also just so beautiful. The writing is so beautiful. There's just some books that the writing is, you just notice it's a step above the typical, and this was one of those books. And so is the next book, the other book in my literary fiction category, which is Revenge by Yoko Gawa, which was originally published in Japan in 1998, but then was first published in English in 2013. And this is 11 short stories that are very, very dark. And I would say this has a bit of a horror edge to it. Although there's not really anything supernatural, it's pretty like things that could actually happen, but it is really, really twisted and dark and a little strange. Just the way I like it. This book was pretty much made for me. And again, the writing was superb. There was a connection between every one of the stories going throughout. Even though there were mostly different characters and settings in each story, there was something from each story that connected them together, and it was really fun to find that little string that attached them. I cannot even explain the enjoyment I got out of this reading experience. And the last two books, my 7 favorite reads, are 2 horror stories. The first one is Dear Laura by Gemma Amor, which was published in 2019, and I just finished this in June. Dear Laura is a very dark, disturbing story about a girl whose friend is taken when she's very young, and then she starts getting very sinister, creepy notes from someone leaving her little clues. But this was very dark, kind of makes you feel a little icky, because this guy is not a good guy. He's a stalker, he's a pedophile, he's just yucky. But the emotion that this novel evoked was fantastic, and it was lightning fast-paced, and I started it one day and I had to finish it that same day because I had to know what was going to happen. I had to make sure Laura was going to be okay, and it was very tense, and I loved it. I just loved it. And the other favorite horror novel was Where the Dead Go to Die by Aaron Dries and Mark Allen Gunnels, and this was published in 2016. And this is kind of an interesting take on a zombie novel. Oh, I have that one. I have that one. So Where the Dead Go to Die is about a zombie virus that is taking over, causing havoc in the world, and the setting is a hospice where people that contract this disease can go and spend their last days, so they're not out amongst the public, and the people in there will take care of them and treat them with dignity for their last human moments. And the main character is a mother of a young girl whose and her husband was killed by this disease. So she really feels for the people that have this condition and are going to become zombies. As you can imagine, it being a nurse in this situation is pretty dangerous, but she meets a really good friend and kind of makes a formed family with one of the volunteers, and it's really beautiful. This was a really sad story because, you know, anyone with the disease, there is no cure. The end is nigh. And it does not take it easy on the reader. It was definitely a tearjerker. This is one of the only books that made me cry so far this year. So those are the 7 best books that I read Q2 of 2020 from April through June. Have you read any of these books, and what did you think of them? Do you want to read any of them? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, you can hit like and subscribe, and I'll be back very soon with another book related video. Thanks. Bye.